The season of mists and mellow fruitfulness has descended over my far-flung corner of the world, dear wildflowers, and the cottage garden is a tangle of spent summer blooms and drooping seed heads, nodding gently in the breeze. It is wild and weedy, and all the plants are tinged with burnt orange and caramel now. Rosy pink camellia petals and golden oak leaves flutter to the ground, and the earth breathes a long, deep sigh before settling into her winter slumber. Samhain is upon us here in the southern hemisphere, a time when the veil between the worlds is thin, and I can feel the spirits whispering as I gather my favourite flowers to collect their precious seeds. A year has passed since I moved to Belladonna Cottage, and just like the flowers and trees around me are embracing change, this season is asking the same of me. A wonderful opportunity to return to work as a designer meant that this wild little rose has become a tad domesticated once more, returning to the office 3 days a week and working out ways to juggle everything without feeling overwhelmed. You know, there is a Latin word for my particular neurotype, which translated means in one's own space and time, perfectly describing a girl who was so often accused of living in a dream world or being away with the fairies. I suppose I've always struggled with the concept of time. It's a framework that feels unnatural to live by when I prefer to operate according to my feelings, senses and moods. I'm often hyper-aware of the very minutes of my finite life, at least in this form, passing by, the invisible matrix of the mundane world pulling me this way and that, future interruptions to my blissful flow state, marching ever closer on that perceived calendar. But autumn reminds me that nature too has a calendar to follow, and yet she does it effortlessly, gently and without urgency. So much progress is made over the seasons, yet if we micromanage the garden by the hour, by the minute, we'd hardly see any progress at all. And so, as I gather my favourite blooms together, carefully selecting them by colour and hue, I consider ways to adopt this attitude and tell myself it's okay to do things in your own space and time, Nancy. As the high heat of summer gives way to cool breezes and chill mornings, this little garden goblin can finally get on with the busy work of the season, weeding, pruning, digging up bulbs and pulling out all the spent summer annuals. It's so satisfying to tidy up the cottage garden, but even on these cool autumn days, it can be a hot and sweaty job for a wildflower. Phew! Which is why I'm so thrilled to have my wild deodorant handy. It's powered by plants, you know, and it's certified vegan, cruelty-free, and the premium reusable cases come with compostable refills, so it helps keep our beautiful green planet wild too. I have very sensitive skin and I can't handle anything that isn't completely natural. No surprises there. So this really is the best deodorant I've tried. If you would like to try Wild for yourself, simply click the link in the description below and use my special code RAMBLINGROSE for 20% off all their products. But remember, wildflowers, this offer is for a limited time only. I know you are going to love these planet-friendly body products just as much as I do, and I think the bees in my garden agree. Before we begin sorting and saving seeds, I thought it might be nice to take out our art journals and make space for a little creativity to flow. I've been so looking forward to this moment when I could sit down in the garden with my journal, Wild Fairy Magic, and lose myself in the light, momentarily suspended in time, lost in the flow of colours gliding across the paper and staining my fairy fingers. I know many of you have already ordered one of our handmade art journals for yourself, and so perhaps you'd like to join me too. The journal prompt is sweet and simple. Pick and paint a bouquet of flowers from your very own garden. Perhaps there's a little Samhain magic stirring in the air today as I mix the colours of these burgundy ball dahlias, and I rather fancy the flowers themselves are taking a peek at what I'm up to, delighted that I might find them so fascinating and beautiful. Somewhere deep in their code, I wonder if they remember what other artists may have been so inspired by their ancestors once upon a time. Ugh, sadly, that infernal human invention, the clock, tells me I have run out of time to finish this painting, and so I'll have to finish it off and share the final reveal with my patrons and channel members next week instead. So watch this space, Wildflowers, and I'll see what I can do. Back in the garden, I have gathered the cosmos and zinnias I like best, and now I'll move on to selecting my favourite dahlias of the season, so I'll know which bulbs to keep for next year and which ones to give away as gifts. I'm looking at you, Mum. You may remember the episode where I began planning this new garden at Belladonna Cottage and how I wanted a colour palette of plum and lavender, apricot, raspberry and dragonfire orange. I made my selections from pictures and seed catalogues, but it is only now, after a summer spent in observation, that I can truly know the way each individual plant expresses itself, seeing their glorious display of shape and colour in context. The myriad hues and shades, when set against each other, blend and soften or contrast and pop, and some, of course, clash rather unfortunately. And you can't really know until you see it all come to life in the summer. Pale pastel and white flowers, for example, lend a sweet, softening effect to their companions in the garden, so I'll definitely be planting purity white cosmos again, along with whirling butterflies, creamy David Austin roses, and white velvet salvias. The same goes for foliage colour, which is why I love to add in silvery saltbush, white sage, and lamb's ears. I now know roughly how tall each flower grows, how leafy and sprawling they can be, how large the blooms are, and in particular, the exact shade of their petals. After all, it's really just another artwork, but this one is made with flowers instead of paint and paper. I don't know about you, but I'm really happy with how it all turned out, and I can't wait to try again next year with my short list of showstoppers. It's truly incredible how many seeds are produced from a single plant, which began as a tiny seed itself just 6 or 7 months earlier. There are so many blooms on the one bush, especially with these cosmos and zinnias, that I'm almost certain Mr. Rose and I could start a whole new flower farm from this summer's cut flower patch alone. I'm not sure we'll find a place for all these beautiful babies come spring, so I might pop a limited number of mixed seed packets up on my online store for Australian garden fairies to enjoy. They're far too pretty to sit in my potting shed in the dark, and I'd much rather imagine them blooming in cottage gardens across the country, delighting bees and butterflies, and inspiring a new generation of green thumbs. Gosh, I so hope you enjoyed this episode, sweet friends. It sure was a pleasure to invite you into my garden for a spell, to gather flowers together and chat, reflecting on the mysteries of the season. If you'd like an art journal of your own, Mr. Rose has been busy in the bookbindery, conjuring up new sizes and new cute fabrics. Some are even fairy-sized. Perfect for a dainty fairy who dreams of sitting on a mushroom, painting and sketching all that she sees. You'll find them in my online store, along with art prints, oracle cards, colouring books and more. All things creative and magical, whimsical and handmade with love, right here in Australia. Until next time, beautiful wildflowers, may you be blessed with love, laughter and wild abundance, whatever the season. Merry meet and merry meet again, dear friends, and a blessed turn of the wheel to all.